Excellent. Thank you for that. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for sticking around. We talked about Power World. Now we're moving into He-Man. Cool. Masters of the Universe Revolution. Okay, so, oh God, I'll just say it straight up. I loved it. Yeah. All right. Next topic. Awesome. Thanks for being here. Anyway, so yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot. It was amazing. The only problem I had with it is it's only 5 episodes. Yeah, that sucks. So let's do a bit of a recap. So Masters of the Universe Revelation came out a couple of years ago, and it just single-handedly nearly just killed the franchise for a lot of people, and the longtime fans hated it. I hated it. Yes, there was a few cool bits in it, like the first and last 2 episodes. I think it's safe to say, and I don't want to spoil anything in case you do want to watch it. But there was a lot that happened in that series that it's very current era, and nobody cares for that. Nobody, right? This Master of the Universe is going to be in its 40th anniversary this year. It is in its 40th anniversary, either this year or last year. I can't remember, but it's happening now, right? So you've got longtime fans that grew up with this property. They've been there for every iteration, right? And they've got kids now, and their kids have kids, right? And they know they've probably handed that down, right? And those toys have lived amongst that family, those families for generations, right? It wasn't like that for my family. My older brother was into He-Man, but it just didn't filter down too much outside of a couple really bad New Adventures of He-Man figures. But I've since watched the I know there was a 2011 or 2002 series, I think it was. That was really cool, but I didn't get to see a lot of it. I hope to go back and watch it one day, but that was a fan favorite for years as well. And He-Man went away for decades, right? And then you come up with this series that Kevin Smith is the showrunner for, and absolutely I think he had a meltdown right after this because the internet just turned on him, right? Good when it came out, and some of the things that happened during that season, and some of the character interactions and characterizations were a bit off, and it was going the current era direction that, not to, I don't want to. I'll just say it, like they were shipping people that didn't need to be shipped, and I hate that term, but people on the internet keep using it. Like for years, right? The fans have been like, okay, Prince Adam or He-Man and Teela were always, you always kind of saw them as an item or potential, right? And even in the comics over the years, right? But then along comes Master of the Universe Revelation, and He-Man and Prince Adam's barely in it at all. And it's a Teela and Friends show, and all the females are huge, buff, massive shoulders, and all the men are shit. I didn't want to swear in this episode, but it is what it is. All the men suck, and all the men are weak, and it's just this girl boss kind of thing that's going on. And Teela and this new character, the replacement Man of Arms, they were trying to like force this thing to happen between these two women, and just all these illusions of, people being gay all throughout the bloody thing, and I've got no issue with that. But it's like, come on, this is He-Man. This is Master of the Universe. Like, you want to see He-Man and Cringer and Battlecat and Man at Arms and whoever else, saving the day and fighting Skeletor and doing all this epic stuff in Grayskull, right? But it just wasn't that. The first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes, I think, were it. And anyway, if you've been lying under a rock or you're just not familiar with this, it's all over the internet, and people are still talking about it even now this has come out, right? But this corrects the course. I'll say that. It's amazing, right? It's about half as long as the season prior, unfortunately, but I think that's just a direct result of, I think they had to course correct very quickly because animation takes a long time, right? So you'd have to imagine they've already greenlit a potential sequel to that season, right? So they already started developing some storyboarding or, progressing that production in the hopes that it gets greenlit, right? So they're already ahead. And then they have the fallout of that season. And I assume, had to have gone, all right, hold up a minute. we're on the verge of destroying a franchise here. And Kevin Smith is quoted last week or so before this season came out saying that was never his intention to just to walk in and kill a franchise. But I'm sure that he had his. You can read into it. There's some interviews that have been said recently where it paints Kevin Smith in a more fortuitous light, where there's other people at play that were changing the narrative, so to speak. And I think Kevin Smith just had to roll with it, and he's had to deal with the fallout because he's Kevin Smith. He's the bigger name compared to the other ones, and he was at the forefront, right? So this comes out, and I'll just say, like, I enjoy He-Man, I really do, to the point where the CG show, right? And I was talking in the Power World topic just before about making judgment or being able to change your mind like grown-up people can do, right? I saw the trailer for and some screenshots of the Netflix CGI series for He-Man that was more directed towards the younger audience, and I thought, oh bugger it, I'll give it a go because I just wanted to see some more He-Man stuff. And my wife and I watched that series and we marathoned it after, like, we were hooked on it. I loved it. That show was so good. The writing was good. The characters were on point. There was no agenda. It was very even. Everybody got screen time. He-Man was there a lot. There was really cool action. Skeletor was amazing. Right, all that stuff was going on, and that was 4 seasons. Right, and I've got almost the entire collection of that toy line. I've got the Grey Skull, which is amazing. By the way, the only toys from that toy line I don't have are two of the bikes that weren't even in the show anyway. Right, and some other Tila figure, right? But I've got one that's enough. So I really enjoyed that, and it took me by surprise because this animation for Master of the Universe Revelation and Revolution, that's what I wanted to see. The animation is stellar. Even though I hated the previous season, the animation was stellar. All right, the character designs were great. I loved it. Everything else, like visually appealing and adult, like it was grown up, right? I loved the tone and the character designs and the story and the world that they were building, but I just hated the current year stuff that they were forcing down. Like, come on, like, know your audience, right? Know your audience. It's you're trying to get the old school fans back to watch it with their family that they've been celebrating this franchise for 40 years with, right? You don't then remove the central character for 2/3 of the bloody season. Right, and I'm dancing around it, but I have to speak to it. You don't remove the central character, and I don't care about that conversation about, but it's called Masters of the Universe, not He-Man in the Masters of the Universe. Yeah, well, the original toy line was just called Masters of the Universe as well, right? The vast majority of the He-Man-centric toy lines have just been called Masters of the Universe, right? The cartoon, the Filmation cartoon was called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe because they were just trying to pinpoint that He-Man was the main character. But He-Man always was the main character. So this series being called Masters of the Universe is just what the IP is called, right? It's not saying anything different, right? Everybody associates Masters of the Universe with He-Man, right? He-Man is the central character. The battle between He-Man and Skeletor, it is what it is. So I don't agree with that discussion of like, well, it didn't say He-Man in the Master of the Universe. It just said Master of the Universe. It had nothing about He-Man, so it wasn't a bait and switch. It was. Because every interview before that season coming out was saying He-Man's in it a lot. And it's about He-Man doing this and that. Anyway, so I won't go into too much more of what happened before because there's a lot of it documented. But it just gives some context into what is happening with this new season. Right, so I just needed to speak to it a little bit. So now that you've kind of caught up a little bit, you can definitely tell the tonal shift in this Revolution series. It definitely caters more to the established fan base, right? It's definitely put together in a way where you technically don't need to see Revelations at all, but you do benefit from watching that previous season for obvious reasons if you've watched it. But you can watch it without it. It's just you might just be like, well, what's happening? Why do these characters look like the way they do? Right? Clearly something has happened before here, like there's some prior knowledge required, but the rest of it does enough world building for you that you get caught up very quick. And how can I say it? It rights some wrongs with some characters. It pushes a lot of right ahead, which is great, and it opens up for more, right? It just opens up this universe a lot more than the first one did. And I can't wait. I hope they do another season. I personally went on Twitter. I didn't think I'd get any reaction or anything, but I went on Twitter and just tagged Kevin Smith, just saying like, well done, mate. Like you and the whole production team, this is amazing. Just trying to, I think Kevin Smith is reveling in some of the positivity that's coming out of this season, and deservedly so. He got unfairly smashed. Unfairly in retrospect, but even back then it was a bit unfair. But anyway, I hope he's enjoying the positive feedback now. This season is excellent. I just wish there was more, right? And I do sound like a bit of a hypocrite saying that, because I'm one of the people that says I don't need every season or every show to be 10 or 12 episodes if it's just going to be full of filler, right? And I still agree with that, right? There's a lot of shows out there could just be a movie, or hey, let's just make it a trilogy or something, right? A lot of the Marvel series, a lot of it's filler and crap. Why don't you just condense it to 4 or 5 episodes and make it a strong experience instead of 10 or 12, even 6, like 6 or 8 episodes? Unless you've got a strong story to tell, you might not even need the full 8, right? So this benefited from being a shorter runtime, I believe. It's a strong 5 episodes. Not in one episode did I feel bored. I didn't feel like, oh, they could have skipped that, right? I didn't feel anything like that. If anything, I was like, damn, I wish I had more time to explore that character or that storyline. There's some Easter eggs in this thing. I'm like, ooh, okay, like I see what you're doing here. And it's almost throwaway. It's blink and you miss it. Some of the Easter eggs, like, like I recognize what it is, right? And I can foretell, like, hey, okay, I think I know what they're going to do next season based on this scene, right? There's a little, oh man, I wish I could tell you, but anyway, I'm very excited if they do another one. I'm pretty sure that this is getting a lot of positive reviews and feedback this time around, even from the fans. They needed the fans to come back for this, right? And I hope they do, right? I really hope they do. The animation is stellar. The character designs are on point, right? All the characters are great in this one. There's a lot of course correction done on this one to fix those problems that they put themselves in from the last season. I hope someone smart upstairs at Netflix came downstairs and was like, oi, what the hell are you doing? Or Mattel. I think Mattel might have had something to do with that. Go, hey, this is a big budget animation project here and you're killing our franchise on it, right? Fix that problem, please. Right? I think there would have been some conversation like that. I mean, if I was Mattel or whoever and ran this IP and understood what the fans are and where they're from and what they're wanting, I would have seen the fallout from the previous season and go, hey, stop that right now and fix that, right? I mean, fair enough. They might have thought it sounded good on paper, right? Because they would have, whoever was shepherding that, whoever the personage from Mattel was like overseeing the previous season's project or approved it, right? They must have seen it, all the stuff that they were putting forward. I don't think they would have been surprised, right? They would have approved on their story treatment and whatnot to go ahead with it, right? But I think they were just kind of basing that on some current metrics on current year stuff, right? All the talk about identity and, sexuality and whatever, that kind of stuff that's going around. I think that might have informed their decision, right? To be like, well, maybe that's what the modern audience wants, if I can get that out, which is wrong, right? The modern audience doesn't want that, right? And if that's the modern audience that you want to target, then there's not enough of them to make it successful, right? And all you've done is just once again, it's done at Disney. All you've done is alienate your established lifelong fan base, right? And now you're playing catch up and hope they come back. But I really do hope they come back because this was really good. Excellent. Even the toy line, the Masterverse toy line, it's excellent. I've stopped myself from going to Masterverse toy line. I got my CG Netflix complete collection. I'm considering it complete because who needs 2 other bikes when they weren't even on the show? I even got Mossman, who is impossible to get. I found him in a random JB Hi-Fi in the last month or 2. Random JB Hi-Fi here in Australia. It never came. It was not released in this country, right? It was a very minimal. And this is going off the rails a bit, but there was a Mossman release for that toy line. They cancelled the toy line that was to bring in the season 4, sorry. Or whatever season it is. There was, I think it's season 4 they cancelled. I correct myself before. I think, yeah, it's only 3 seasons. I think they were going to do a season 4, but they cancelled it. And there was a toy line. They had one wave come out, and then they cancelled it. And there's a Moss Man in some of the promo material, but it never hit retail. And only it made it to one retailer in America, a small retailer. And that's the only place that you could get it. And it was very limited. So for me to find that, just seriously, I was in JB Hi-Fi looking through some Transformers and, look, some Masters of the Universe stuff and, a couple of Masterverse figures. And then I kind of looked behind a few bits and pieces like, hey, what is this? Oh my God. This goes for like $300 on eBay. What the hell, And I got it for $22, right? And it's sitting there on top of my grey Skal with the rest of them. I'm considering that done. I'm literally only missing a few things, but whatever. I'm considering that collection complete. But so I promised my wife I wouldn't get into the Masterverse He-Man stuff, like the more adult collector stuff, which is, cool, hyper articulated figures based on, the lore and the mythos and stories and everything from over the past 40 years, including this series, right? And they're doing amazing figures. The Battle Cat is massive. They haven't done a grey Skal yet, which if they did a grey Skal for that scale, it would be massive, right? It'd be bigger. I don't want him going into it because that'll be tempting. But anyway, look, I do enjoy He-Man. I do enjoy Masters of the Universe. I think it's a lot of fun. It really captured everything that's good about the series and everything that is good or what used to be good. Right? It told a simple story. There wasn't pushing an agenda. There was a love story between Shocker, a strong male figure, and a strong but somewhat still vulnerable woman, who acknowledged feelings for a man. Imagine that, right? Magical. It told that age-old true story dynamic that's just wholesome and natural and true, and it just felt good. It wasn't pushing anything bad. It was, it had good action in it, amazing animation. It was everything that I wanted that the first series should have been, right? And the lore, I liked how it was going into, the lore is awesome, man. The Master of the Universe, the lore is awesome. Some of the characters look really stupid, but even this series has made a way to make the stupidest looking Master of the Universe figures and characters look good, right? So more power to this studio and Netflix and Mattel for putting this together. Hordak is a beast in this one. He's quite brutal. Really enjoyed his characterization in this. Keith David does an amazing job as Hordak. Mark Hamill does another stellar performance as Skeletor. And William Shatner's in this, but I'm not going to tell you who it is because it caught me off by surprise. And I want you to find that too. I knew he was in it, but I didn't know. They didn't say who was playing. I don't think they said it, at least to the very last window of time before launch. And I'm glad I didn't. It was just a nice surprise for me, so I don't want to spoil that for you. But yeah, amazing series. Looking forward to the next one. Go watch it. I do recommend, go and watch Revelations as well. You might enjoy it. My wife did. My wife really enjoyed that series. I didn't as much. Right? I hated a lot of it. There's some really cool parts in it when it felt like He-Man. But the rest of the time, I just couldn't care. The world building in that series was good though. I enjoyed the places that they went. Some of the lore that they were building, some of the world building that they were doing. It's just a lot of the angle that they were going for. The characters was just the current year crap that everybody's sick of, right? So you won't see any of that in this series, which is great. For me personally, it's amazing. I'm glad they shied away from it and listened to the feedback because it was massive feedback, right? And so I hope this shows them, hey, look, the fans have come back. The positive results are there. All right, let's just stay on course now, right? Let's go tell another great story for season 3. Because what they've set up here, yes, and it does set up for another season. What they've set up here is really cool, right? I'm very excited, and there's a nugget of a character that isn't seen very often in the Master of the Universe He-Man conversation. I don't want to spoil it, but the way that they're doing it, it's taken from a DC Comics run, and I kind of know what that is. And I was like, oh, okay. Like there's the after credit scene or whatever. Like, oh, that's an interesting little nugget to throw in there. Cool. Right. So anyway, there's a lot in there to like. So go ahead, watch it. Let me know what you think about it. and let's hook into the last bit here. Now, this is the next part of this conversation is Xbox news. That's pretty bad, but I've got a bit of a take on it, so I won't spend too long on it. But thanks for joining me for the He-Man portion of this. I really enjoyed talking about that, and yeah, let's hook into the next one, and then we can wrap it up after that conversation.